Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It is Black Friday, and I'm shopping this morning.
But not for what you think.
I mean, there really aren't any Black Friday deals for what I'm shopping for.
Nope.
At least maybe there are. Never looked for that before.
I don't know, I guess I haven't either.
But we just wanted to inform you of a great tool that might be available to you in your local area you can use when you're starting to plan out anything from windbreaks to general shrubbery around your place or fruit trees and nut trees. We used this tool in the past. It's called your local Soil and Water Conservation
District
thing. And it usually is
through your county.
Through your local county, and they make available to you native plants and shrubs that they want to reintroduce back into the environment or keep strong in your environment. So they tend to grow really well in your area, and sometimes you can get some
pretty awesome deals.
Really good deals. I'll show you here in a little bit what I'm talking about. So let's take a look. All right, so here we are on our website here for our local soil and water conservation service. So we're kind of lucky we have a website for this. In your area, if depending upon your county, you might not have access to a website. They might not have put together that functionality, but they usually can make it available to you via the mail, snail mail. And you just have to maybe go online and register for it or register for it somewhere, and then they'll send it out to you in the mail when things are available for you to order. So as you can see here from the top, now this is actually I think page 2, so there's a bunch of other things, but from the top here you can see bundles of 25 trees here for $41.25, 25 trees. So I mean, that's a great deal. You couldn't, I mean, sometimes you'll spend $20 just on one, spruce tree. Now, it tells you right here, these are only 7-inch to 15-inch trees. So they start out fairly small, but I'll tell you, that's the best way to plant and to get started your windbreak, because you're really going to establish the best root system doing it that way. Whereas when you buy a larger plant, a lot of times the root system is stunted or it's cut in the process of transplanting it. So it tends to make it a little harder for that tree to get established, and also it makes it a little bit more prone to damage from high winds and that kind of stuff later on, especially with something like your fruit trees. So sometimes it's good to get them smaller. You just have to take a little bit more time to get them established, and you're going to have maybe a couple more years worth of waiting for the windbreak that you're looking for. But so what we're looking at is something like this white spruce right here. That's a good looking tree for our area. And what I like about it, well, let's see if I can get you a little better view here. What I like about this particular tree is it has a really kind of fast growth rate, and a nice height and width. So it's really going to cover a lot of area quickly. And another thing that's cool about this one is it's popular for Christmas trees and wildlife habitat, and it's not very readily eaten by deer, which is always a plus around here. So I'm thinking about that tree. That sounds like a good tree from my perspective. So let's go back and look at some others. Another good option is there's a black hill spruce, which is also another type of white. It tends to be a little bit more hardy, especially with situations where you have a drought. So that's a good option as well for our area. Then you can see here they have pellets for fertilizer available, some tree mats, things like that. So it really is a pretty good deal. And then you can see here we can get a registration for a feedlot too if we wanted to raise our own beef on or something like that. So there's some options for pines that we have on this site. Like I said, they're native to the area, so they're already a good option, and you can kind of depend upon them to do pretty well. You don't have to spend so much time researching and trying to find something that's going to do great in your area. And here you can see they've got a few different types of shrubs, you know, a chokeberry, dogwood, cranberry, American hazelnut. So this is a nut tree. I think we plan on getting a couple of these too. I've always kind of wanted to try them, and I do like hazelnuts. The ones that grow in our area up here in the north tend to be smaller and maybe not as good for eating, but you can still eat them. And they have other benefits as well. Lilac, you can see. So why go to town and spend, you know, $20 on a lilac tree when you can get a bundle of 25 here for 40 bucks. Here's a nanny berry. Some of these are edible. Some of them, you know, there's really cool recipes and that kind of stuff that you can use from like things that the Native Americans used to do with some of these berries. So you can look into that. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, they're just really good for adding beauty. And, you know, sometimes songbirds and that kind of stuff really like some of these berries. So you have that benefit as well. Here's another one I think we're going to get. It's a American Prairie Red Plum. It gets to be about a 1.5 inch wide fruit, so that one sounds like a really good option, and I like plums. And you can do all kinds of, you know, jams and jellies and just for straight eating too. And then a black cherry as well, so that's another one I think we'll get maybe a couple trees of. And then you can see here they have local native maple trees, oak trees, walnut, and then here's a few more arborvitae. So another type of windbreak if you're interested in that. And then here's a fir tree, which these are good for lumber if you wanted to do something like that. You know, some people on their homestead might be interested in raising just a bunch of trees for, like I said, Christmas trees, something like that. You can sell them if you have extras. Save what you had for your windbreak and sell off the rest for Christmas trees. Or these fir you could grow up. These things get, you know, really tall, and then as an investment later in your life, you can sell off the lumber for them or something like that. Like so, here it describes that they're commonly used for pulpwood and construction lumber. And fir is actually a more valuable lumber than your typical pine construction lumber because it tends to be a little bit more sturdy and a little bit stronger. So there you go. That's an overview of our website and some of the things that we're looking at getting. I've been researching some of these bushes. I want to see if any of them are nitrogen fixing. I don't think any of them are. But I also follow the Permaculture Orchard on YouTube, and he's got some really good ideas about planting different types of trees together to get biodiversity in your orchard, while also at the same time the trees working together, sort of like companion planting in your garden. So some of these options might be good for that. So I just wanted to show you that resource, and hopefully you guys take away some ideas from this, and maybe you have this available in your area too, and you can save some money in establishing some of the things that you want to plant.
And we're back. So sorry the battery died. It's actually a totally different day, but we were talking about the windbreak. So a few more things I wanted to mention to you before the battery died. So if you take a look here, you can see that we have some trees established already. And I'm not exactly sure what kind of pine trees these are, but basically they're where we would want them to be. There's just not enough of them. And the reason that this is kind of the primary side of our property that we want to protect from the wind is because our prevailing winds come from this direction. This is northwest for us. And your north and your westerly winds, at least up here in Minnesota, are definitely our cold, most severe winds most of the time, especially in the winter with storms and that kind of stuff. Although on the other hand, if we go to the south, that's where we get a lot of our weather from, so our rain and snow and that kind of stuff, because it's a warmer wind that comes up from the south, from the Gulf most often, and that brings with it a lot of precipitation usually. And sometimes that can come with really strong winds as well. However, you can see on our property here, we have a down slope on the southward side, and so putting a tree here is not going to be super effective in really stopping the wind. And then we also have a lot of trees off this direction, and it's kind of heavily wooded, so we get fairly decent protection there anyway. It's just a little farther off. Another thing to consider on your southward side is you don't usually want to put a windbreak there, because especially here, if we went with a really tall tree, like an 80, 90, 100-foot tree, like a tall pine of some sort, we'd also have to worry about then shading out a lot of the sunny side of our property. Really what we'd like to do with this side of our property is have more like field or pasture area, that kind of thing, with maybe some sparse shade trees or something like that. Because we also have fruit trees up over here, and we want to make sure we're not putting them in too much shade. Especially during the winter when the sun's lower in the sky for us. You can see it up there. You know, in the winter time, it gets lower in the horizon. In the summer, like you can see, it's only this far from the horizon, and it's, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning. In the summer, it's way up there. So we have to think about those things here, and it's kind of addressing where your property is and how it's laid out and where you want things on your property. Another thing we have to consider here for our windbreak, you can see here we have a lot of damage. And this is from a buck. This is from a white-tailed deer. And he just tore this thing up. This thing might bounce back from this, but it might not. So that's another thing I have to consider. Usually, what helps this the most is just having more of them. When you have an isolated tree like that, or something that kind of sticks out in an area where a deer might pass by, during the rut, during this time of year in the fall when we're looking for mates and leaving signs, if there are deer around here, they're going to be leaving signs, and a tree that stands out like that is going to be a perfect target. So once we get a bunch in here, it'll probably really help reduce the amount of damage that we get from deer. So yep, this is the northward side. You can see here, we're going to continue this line. We'll purchase some of those trees from the Soil and Water Conservation office, and then we'll do some on the other side of the driveway here as well. If I was to guess, I would say these are some type of white spruce, white pine, or not white pine, sorry. Yeah, I believe these are like a spruce, not a Colorado or anything like that. So here you can see on this side, we'll be putting some here too. And the main objective of putting them here will be to protect the garden from strong winds from the west and the north. But we already have, our neighbor has a really nice line of windbreak here on their south facing side, and that'll protect the north winds from our garden really well. So this is a great spot for the garden. We get all the sun we need from the south and from the east in the morning, and from even the west in the sunset at night. So it's a full sun spot. Should be really good for our garden. So another thing you can do in planning out your windbreak is you can look at Google Maps or any online or aerial map that you have, or just draw out a picture of your property and then make your plan that way, and note some of the prevailing winds, note the direction of your sunlight, note all of those things to help you decide where you should put certain plants and certain windbreaks, and then determine what types of plants that you want to put there. All right, let's go inside and check that out.
So here is a shot of our property as you can see it on Google Maps. Now, I can assure you, it doesn't look anything like this anymore, all this junk here. That was a previous owner, and apparently we haven't had a satellite come visit us since then and take new pictures. So, you know, whoever did all that work cleaning up all this junk, we really appreciate you. So thank you for doing that. But basically, if you use Google Maps like this in the satellite view, you can easily get a nice snapshot of your property. You can draw your property lines up over top of this map and then start to plan out your windbreaks and how you want to lay out your property. So that's what we did. But then I kind of used that and I went straight to paper to draw it all out and then to add things where I wanted to. So we'll show you that next. Okay, so here is my little drawing that I made. And where I'm primarily going to be focused is right up along here. This is, and you can see I noted right here, you can see I noted my north, south, east, west. So here's north, here's west, and then here's the direction, you know, most of my wind is going across the property. At least, you know, the colder, more severe winds. So
You can see here there was sort of a faint start. Maybe they had a full windbreak at one time started here and just several trees died. So these are the ones that are left. And I've drawn in which ones are left. So what I would be looking to do then is to sort of reestablish this line here and fill in with any additional trees. And then what I'm going to do here is some of these are like a red pine here. And then there's some additional spruce back here. This one's another red pine here. And then these are all spruce here that are in this line so far. So I'll fill these in with those white spruce that we looked at. And then I'm going to do a second line to align up with these trees, this tree here. And to keep it consistent, I could do another line of like those red pine, which I might do. And those might give me a little higher windbreak, whereas these will protect a little lower on with the broad branches down at the bottom, whereas these trees have more long leaf needles more up at the top of the tree. And then I'm going to carry that line over on this side as well. So that'll be the goal, and I'm going to focus mostly on this side of the property. If you look over on this side of the property, I have some different trees noted. So here we have some lilacs, and then down here we have an apple tree and a cherry tree. We're going to continue this down this way, and this is going to be sort of our orchard area where we have most of our fruit and nut trees. There's also an apple tree up here. This is like a crab apple, or like a wild apple. It's pretty good, but it's not a large apple. So I'll probably take that one out just to reestablish. It's too big to probably transplant. So that one will probably just have to come down, and maybe I'll use the tree for a good supply of apple wood for smoking or something. Then you can see down here, this whole area is the outside of our lawn. So this line right here sort of denotes the edge of our lawn. And then this area is all grassland with some mixed in trees. You can see sparse here. So to the east and to the south, I have pretty good wind coverage coming. Or a little farther to the south here, I already have some established forest that kind of travels along here, this line, which is our creek in the back. So that creek kind of continues on this way, and there's lots of trees down that way. There's some forest up over this way as well. So I have good protection pretty much from the south. And again, I don't want to block really much of my light coming in this way because I want my fruit trees to get nice full light. And then I want this area here to be eventual sort of pastures that we can paddock off or square off for different sections for running maybe some future pigs or maybe some cattle or something like that in the future around this whole area. And then here you can see the dotted line. That's sort of the edge of our property. Here's the chicken coop here. And you can see when we planned where we put the chicken coop, we put it next to some tree coverage. And then we also have our compost pile right in here too. And then here is some trees that we have. These are pines as well, sort of between the house. Those protect us a little bit from easterly winds, but not very much. In fact, these trees are not super effective where they're at. We might take those down someday just to open this area of the yard up. Maybe put a shade tree or something like that there. That would be more beneficial for yard space. And then again over here, there's more trees and grassland area. We'll probably leave that and let that grow up as well. Although once we start running some pasture animals through here, it'll probably keep down a lot of the new tree growth and allow the trees that are existing in there to grow and mature. So that's our plan, and that's some of the thinking that I used to establish where to put trees. Like I said, for new trees this spring, we're probably going to focus on this northwest, west and northwest line of trees here on this side of our property to really protect us from those cold, brisk winds in the winter and even during the summer and other months of the years. And then, like I said, we'll just allow nature to sort of fill in these areas and grow up as time goes on and continue to run and use those areas for pasture. And then allow this area to be for our fruit trees. So that's the plan, and I hope this helps you figure out what you might do for your windbreak, considering direction, weather, climate, all that kind of stuff, where your buildings are at. So you can see our house is here, our shed is here, our main garden's here. You can see we get lots of good light, good protection from these trees.
You want that so that you're not getting vegetable gardens destroyed when you get storms. You know, same thing here with your orchard, good airflow. You know, it's not right behind a lot of your windbreak trees, but it's sort of protected by them at a little bit more of a distance. So you get good airflow, but you also get great sunlight. So that's what we're looking to do. And like I said, I hope this helps.
All right, well, that will conclude, I think, this video. I hope you found something helpful. You know, and I hope you find a good resource in your local soil and water conservation resource. It's been a great resource for me in getting lots of different kinds of trees and trees that are native to the area to help restore the land and keep it, you know, in its natural state, but also to find the kinds of trees that you need to really make your property what you want it to be and to make it as functional for your family and for your homestead as you can. We'll catch you in the next one.